Bloop. Whew. Your boy need a haircut. Black power, y'all. Come in the room. Come in the room. I'ma get coffee. I'm tired. But we gonna do this. Let go. Okay, we out here. Let's go. Who gonna come fuck with me before I'm banned? Already cursing. 2 minutes in.
From their self-titled debut release,
Come in the room, y'all. Come in the room. We about to get it popping. Talking about the devil next door. Boop, boop, boop. What time is it? 7:03. All right, 2 people is fine. Black Power, welcome to this week's episode of Proper-gander. It is a show brought to you by Black Hammer. We are a anti-colonial revolutionary organization dedicated to the liberation of African and colonized people all around the world. Right now we have food drive programs in Florida, Delaware, and Atlanta. More to come. Black Power Moon Sammy. We've done protests for the liberation of young black children. So we really about this work, but we know that besides protesting, besides doing all that work on the ground, we also understand that we're at a war of ideas, y'all. The white ruling class is always putting ideas in our head. They always got a new Marvel movie coming out. They always got some bogus documentary, you know what I'm saying? All these things to keep us to the white nationalist state. So we at Black Hammer created Proper-gander to take a look and examine the propagandistic qualities of these various forms of media. So this week's topic is The Devil Next Door. It is a documentary about an alleged Nazi who was pretty much living his best life in putting ideas in our head. They always got to let. Thank you. Yeah, where was I at? He was just living his best life after World War II. He got smuggled to America and was working at the Ford company, had a wife and some kids, and was just chilling until the FBI pretty much found his ass, accused him of being Ivan the Terrible, and the documentary shows the extensive trial process. It's a very in-depth documentary, lots of drama, you know what I'm saying? It really does watch like a crime thriller almost, the way it's panned out. Big love to y'all, so proud of you. Black Power, right on, Moon Sammy. I fucks with you, bruh. But yeah, y'all, so we gonna get it poppin'. So, like I said before, this is about a documentary, and documentaries are in itself, I want to speak to that kind of propagandistic format in and of itself. There's a lot of documentaries. I would say that even nowadays, people my age, like 20-somethings and stuff like that, a lot of us are interested in documentaries, and that's where we might, like when we feeling like a history buff, we might look at a documentary to see what's happening. You know what I'm saying? It presents itself as like a journalistic endeavor, but just like every other journalistic endeavor, we have to be critical of it and of who it's biased to. Now, notice I said not that it's not biased, but who it's biased to, because all works are biased to something. Y'all feel me? We at Black Hammer, we are biased for sure. We are biased to African people, indigenous people, colonized people in general, we're biased to the interest of whoever is under the boot of white supremacy. We make no qualms of that. We don't have a problem stating that outright. But the bourgeois media, you know what I'm saying? The white ruling class media, the capitalist ownership class media, it projects itself to be unbiased, as if their truth is the only truth. You know what I'm saying, that they're giving out. And they do it in the form of magazines and journalistic endeavors such as CNN or NPR. But we all know that CNN and NPR are actually like war machine state-sponsored media. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of their shit is bullshit. Like, for example, NPR pushes that Russia narrative where it's like, oh, Russia, Russia's bad, blah, 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 blah. Oh, Flint don't got no water, don't matter, Russia's bad, blah, 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 blah. Puerto Rico's underwater and on fire at the same time, Russia's bad, don't worry about that, Russia. You see what I'm saying? So, in that same regard, documentaries present themselves to be, like, factual and non-biased, but we have to, like, just like there's fake news or whatever, if you want to call it that, with the media outlets, there's fake news, skewed perspectives in documentaries. One example besides this one that I'm about to go in depth to is another documentary that you can find on Netflix. It's a Ken Burns documentary, and it's about Vietnam. And it goes in depth. And I have conversations with my coworkers or what have you, and they'll be like, yeah, this Ken Burns documentary is really legit. I learned so much, blase, blase, blase. But even then, Ken Burns, if you look at their politics, he's a very liberal dude. And the way that he frames America's involvement in Vietnam, it's like it's an accident. Like, oh, yeah, we messed up on Vietnam, but the war on terror in Iraq, we was fighting terror, bruh. You know what I'm saying? It's not a condemnation of the war machine as a whole. It's more of an encapsulated criticism of the Vietnamese war. Like, oh yeah, America was kind of messed up then, but we still uphold American values. We still want capitalism, blah, blah, blah. They don't make those connections. Where we, as colonized people, we understand that capitalism is the problem. That Vietnam, the Vietnamese war, is nothing different. Like, you can ask the Korean people, you know what I'm saying, who were bombed, like, flattened by America. You know what I mean? Carpet bombed. And it's a regular thing. Like, America runs on war. You know what I'm saying? Just like that, this documentary presents itself as a critical view of America. You know what I mean? Like, it has some allusions to how messed up America really is and how it has a history of collaborating with people that itself has claimed that is evil, namely Nazis. Like, they present that as a mistake. But what I'm here to do is expose that this German brand of white nationalism is not different from the American brand of white nationalism. And we're going to get into that. So, let's see. I want to go down, like, the actual, like, what happened in the documentary. So they find this dude, John Demaniuk is his name, and one day the CIA pops up at his door and alleges him, or like accuses him of being Ivan the Terrible. Ivan the Terrible being a very famous Nazi that was at, I believe it was called Tribunal, something like that, like one of the Nazi death camps in Poland. And he was particularly vicious and savage. He would allegedly, trigger warning. He would allegedly, like, cut people's, like, breasts off, you know what I'm saying, with a sword, like, beat people up, like, even while they're, like, being walked into the gas chambers. And this man, who all his contemporaries, who just worked at a Ford company, like, ooh, he's just like an old man who worked at Ford. Like, people could not believe that he was being accused of this because he's just such a regular dude. So because those crimes happened in Poland, they could not try them in America. You get what I'm saying? It's like a legal thing. Like you can't be tried for that. So Israel, we about to get into Israel. Israel demanded his extradition so he could be tried in Israel for Nazi war crimes. So that's what happened. He's kept in jail in Israel, and then through the span of like 3 episodes, it's a series of different witnesses coming to the stand, Holocaust survivors, telling their stories and saying that, they recognize this man as being Ivan the Terrible. They recognize him. It's like 4 or 5 old dudes being like, this is the man. This is the dude who did, and they're like crying and shit like that. Not to diminish anyone's, like, that's a horrible motherfucking thing to go through. Like, I would never diminish anyone's like oppression or anything like that, but that's just the reality of it. Like, they show Israel as like this kind of state that wants to kind of right the wrongs of Nazis or whatever it is, standing up for an oppressed minority, in this case the Jews. But what I want to get into is the fact of how Israel is portrayed like that in this documentary, because I think the common like someone who doesn't engage in political education of the radical sort always comes as Israel as like this safe haven for Jewish people after the Nazis did what they did, which is be horrible. But that's not really the case. Israel is a product of Zionism, which is a kind of reactionary Jewish nationalism that united with white power, and pretty much bumped up the Jewish minority that was in Europe. You know what I'm saying? Bumped them up to be colonizers, to be white, because to be white is to be a colonizer. That's how that identity came to be. That's the reality. That's the historical fact that there was no white people before they set and colonized other people of color. You get what I'm saying? Y'all follow me so far? Am I making sense? Comment if you've seen it. Like. Share. I always want these to be more of a discussion than just me like laying it all out on the table. But we are cracking into some books because I know people they don't want to just take my word for it. They want to know that I know what I'm talking about, you know? So yeah, the Israel state as we know it is a product of a Zionist movement that came into being in the 19th century in Europe, that was supposed to be like the national liberation of Jewish people. But really what they mean by national liberation is similar to the kind of white nationalism of the Nazis. And that is no bullshit. Like Theodore, I believe his name is Herschel. His name is the dude who created. Yeah, his name is Herschel. I forget his first name, but he was a Nazi collaborator, and in his own words, he says that it was an empty futility trying to combat anti-Semitism. An organization that he made called the Youth Organization of Zionists, they described the Jewish people as a following. A Jew is a caricature of a normal, natural human being, both physically and spiritually. As an individual in society, he revolts and throws off the harness of social obligations and knows no order nor discipline. They even say some pretty horrible things about like their own people. Like it was a reactionary nationalist movement that pretty much literally united with the white state to colonize Palestine. Like Since 1920, Great Britain had made a mandate for Palestine. You get what I'm saying? And they were colonizing Palestine. After what happened in World War II, that's when they allowed that part of their colonization to be given under the rule of the Zionist movement. So I bring that up because it's a confusing thing to have these images of people being like, yeah, man, we were oppressed, now we got our own nation state, yeah, we made it. But that's only on a white standard, because really the Zionist state is its own fascist state. Like the things that that Nazis would do to Jewish people, which are horrible, are like the Zionist, the state of Israel does to Palestinian people on the reg. If it's not just as terrible, it's getting there. Like there's videos of people just being like shot for no fucking reason, and like there's just a whole bunch of like children being dragged out and like being disappeared, malnourished, bombings of the civilians. You know what I'm saying? So it is a kind of trickery to portray these people as or not these people, as like the state itself, as like this kind of like entity that was against fascism. And I want to be clear, I don't have no qualms with Jewish people. I think Jewish people can be on the right side of the question, but the correct stance for Jewish people to have is to be against the state of Israel, and that's just the motherfucking T. Like, it is the job of any Jewish person to condemn the acts of Zionism. Period. That's it. Period. So, yeah, I want people to be wary of that as they watch this documentary. Like, as if Israel and the Nazis were antagonistic. They're not antagonistic. They historically worked together to have that happen, because the Nazis wanted Jewish people out, you know what I'm saying? And the Zionist movement wanted the same thing, pretty much. So they united. But they're both fascistic entities. As in a matter of fact, like you could say the same thing about America. America born out of genocide. America born out of slavery. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could regard that as a fascistic entity. You know what I'm saying? They're both colonial entities at the bottom line. So they have those shared values, which brings me to my next topic: Nazism versus American fascism. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do we define fascism? I think that the fascist movement is characterized by Mussolini and all those people at those times, like Hitler and people like that pretty much used their national, they had a national consciousness that was pretty much based on the oppression of people, and then they used force to subvert a kind of minority. You know what I'm saying? And if you use that kind of that definition, then it's clear that America has always been a fascist entity. You know what I'm saying? Like, bottom line, there is, like, to colonize people, to people like in Africa, like, what would be the difference between like a French colonizer and a German colonizer? Like, who would they be more afraid of? A Nazi or just a regular like French soldier? You know what I'm saying? To an indigenous person, what's the difference between the police or a Nazi? Who is taking their land right now? Who is building pipelines all through their land right now? What's the difference? To colonize people, there is no fucking difference. To white leftists, they're like the worst people alive. You know what I'm saying? White leftists be like, yeah, we gotta punch Nazis. The only good Nazi is a dead Nazi. Blah, blah, blah. But they don't see that their own nationality, their own American nationality, is just as fascistic, and I'm using their language to like understand, to make it clear, is just as fascistic as the Nazis, like American patriotism. If not worse, bro. That's like their genocide, the American genocide was fully like 99.9% sought out. You know what I mean? Black Power, Muhammadu. So yeah, this question, this kind of framing in this documentary where they want you to believe that America is kind of against fascism is a farce. They're both white nationalist identities, and they end up doing the same thing: concentration camps, labor camps, unfrittered capitalism, oppression, mountains of dead bodies. This documentary is problematic in like multiple layers. There's this kind of reoccurring footage of John Demjanjuk's family being like, "Oh, he's such a nice dad. He took me to the park." And you know what I'm saying? He would never be Ivan the Terrible. He would never be a Nazi. He was my father, and he was a nice man, which kind of is the same narrative as like when a mass shooter kind of happens, when a white nationalist attack happens, the media is always like, well, he was a lone wolf, you know what I'm saying? He had kids, he had good grades, you know what I'm saying? They use like the nicest pictures of him. It's the same kind of narrative that John Demjanjuk his story has. They like show him in the garden, you know what I'm saying, like pulling weeds. And it's really problematic because that kind of humanization isn't afforded to colonized people. The question of colonization strips you of your humanity. You don't get to have those stories. You don't get to be looked at as a person. So when someone is the victim of these kind of attacks, these kind of colonial attacks like Mike Brown, the media will do everything that they can to portray him as something less than a person, as like a beast of burden to white people. And it's disgusting. Like, I don't understand. Just kidding. I do understand. Like, it's clear. It's the colonial question. The white leftists don't understand. Nazism. If I can get back to that like point, I feel like Nazism is an adherence to the most fundamental European beliefs. Like, Europe was consolidated and became one once it joined together to imperialize the world. Once it came together to invade Africa and then America, and before that Asia. Before that, it was just warring tribes, just like a whole bunch of other places. You know what I'm saying? But they united on that kind of principle. Although other as time went on, they couldn't sustain that relationship of it being them being black, us being black, them being white. So they had to morph. They had to include more white people into the question. Like, Irish people were colonized at one point. Now they're white. They benefit from the colonial plunder. Things are brought into whiteness. Like, Italian people, like they didn't really understand Italian people as like fully white. Now they're just mayonnaise with olive oil. You feel me? Like, and I think that I want to say that just because the base of white nationalism is still there. Like, it's just a more, I guess, like conservative nationalism. It's a more traditional nationalism where they don't even see Jewish people as white, because Jewish people during the old days in Europe, they were a minority internally in Europe. Like, internally, they were the oppressed minority. You get what I'm saying? And I got a book that speaks to that a little bit.
What book is it?
It's called Black Marxism by Cedric J. Robinson, and it talks about the limitations of European radicalism. So, one, it says European Marxists have presumed more frequently than not that their project is identical with world historical development. So people think that European history is just world history. He also goes on to say racism, I maintain, was not simply a convention for ordering the relations of Europeans to non-European peoples, but it has its genesis in the internal relations of European peoples. So before they were like consolidated as Europe, they had their own contradictions with their own little minorities, and when they went to colonize, those ideas were imposed on us. You know what I'm saying? Like, so instead of squabbling amongst each other, they attacked us. The development, organization, and expansion of capitalist society pursued essentially racial directions. So did social ideology. So they imposed capitalism on all of us and imposed the racial identity of like racial hierarchy that is intrinsic in capitalism. So yeah, I say that to make it clear that Nazism is just a more conservative colonial idea. All right, moving forward. So the documentary really doesn't even it presents a question, and I think that the question is, how can people who have committed these unspeakable crimes or hold abhorrent views just blend in with normal people? That's what the documentary is generally about. But it doesn't do anything to answer that fucking question. Like the whole time. It's just a drama. It's like a drama show. The dude's on trial. People are crying about their experience in the Holocaust, but it doesn't really want to address this very uncomfortable question of what makes it that this man can just live a normal life. Because the reality is, if you attack this question, then you're really attacking the foundations of Americanism. If you condemn John DeManu for being a Nazi, for engaging in genocide, for being a foot soldier in genocide, how can you look up to your presidents? How can you look up to like George fucking Washington, who was like a slave owner, or whoever the fuck them founding fathers were shooting up indigenous people on what is now called America? If you have to punish him, and if what he did, if you have to punish John DeManu for his crimes, then you would also have to have that critical attitude to your, as an American, like American people, to your heroes, to the foundation of your society. And it's uncomfortable for white people to do that. So the only time they really present this question is in the last 15 minutes, bro. The last 15 minutes, there's this lady that comes up, and she's like, yeah, I work in the government. You know what I'm saying? The immigration services gave me a list of so-called Ukrainian immigrants, and they went over to interrogate them, and they just asked them all how they felt. They didn't do anything else. So really, what it was is that America allowed these Nazis to come in and fuck around in their society, to live chill in their society. America allowed that. That's the uncomfortable question that this documentary does nothing to answer. Does nothing to answer at all. It could have went into how John DeManu was in the Catholic Church. You know what I'm saying? The Catholic Church, who's already been proven to have smuggled Nazis into America and South America. They didn't mention that Hitler was a admirer of the Ford company, so the Nazis were smuggled into and worked for the Ford companies, just like John Demjanjuk, the head dude of the Ford company literally knew a band of Ukrainian immigrants that would say nothing. Just work, and then he said that they would like hide in the shadows and then say nothing to nobody. The documentary makes this appeal where it says that America generally finds use for Nazis because they're anti-communist and like great scientists or whatever the fuck. Apparently, like the founder of NASA was a Nazi. You know what I'm saying? Oh, sorry. Yeah, the founder of NASA was a Nazi, so like he's a man who's revered in American society. So like they make it seem like, yeah, America's kind of like not too picky as long as like they can find a use for you, you'll get over it. But I don't think that that's the case, bro. I don't feel like they really internalize that Nazis come in this bitch and get treatment because there is no difference between the Nazi principles and the American principles. There is no motherfucking difference. There is no difference. Like, they're both anti-communist. You know what I'm saying? They're both racist. They're both eugenics. That's why. Because America can find a lot of use for the Mexican immigrants, right? You could find a lot of use. But they don't treat them the same way as the Ukrainian, aka Nazi immigrants. Like, that's what really got me at the end of this documentary.
What does eugenics means?
What does eugenics means? Eugenics is like a fake ass science that has to do with like your biology. So, like, that's pretty much the Nazi quote unquote science that they mess with. Like, they would try to make you the biologically best person. You know what I'm saying?
Gussie said to add him on his shit so y'all can do a double.
Oh, God. How do I do that? Special guest appearance? Whew.
Well, keep going.
What was I talking about? Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Click me or invite me or something. Click me or invite me.
I don't see him on the comments.
He is in the comments.
Yeah, but I don't see him on my comments.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this lady, what really got to me was this lady literally has a list of quote unquote illegal immigrants in this day and age, and she can't do nothing about it because they're Nazis. Am I still going? Blood quantum theory equals eugenics. I 100% unite. You mean like for the indigenous people?
Click
The viewers count?
Okay.
Nope.
We're clicking the viewers count.
Black Power, Barbara.
Keep going.
So yeah, I want to make a quick shout out to my comrades in Delaware. I just got all these pictures of the work that we're doing for the Delaware food drive. It was super organized. The food looks delicious. Everyone looks like they're having fun. It's super dope, and I can't wait to see how it turns out. Right on to those comrades. Shout out to Comrade Steph. Shout out Comrade Vinny, Erica, Katrina, Chloe. Shout out to all those hardworking comrades. Also, this Monday, we're going to be having another protest for the Protect Our Girls campaign. We are fighting for the liberation of 2 young girls who are being allegedly sexually assaulted by their stepfather and that family, and we want to bring them back to a loving, warm home. You know what I'm saying? It's a case, but we gotta really. It only lets me block you or delete. If you want to support the work that we do, please donate to on our Cash App, hashtag BlackHammerOrg. That's BlackHammerOrg.
You know how that thing gotta be sideways to add.
Oh. It can't rotate. It can't Yeah, it won't let me do nothing.
Flip vertical.
It's weird doing this 100% live. Also, please help me build my agitation and propaganda team or social media, aka social media. I really need a group. I want to make these videos kind of like into a video essay with like dope graphics and just like me having like to write out essays with some vocals, and then I can show y'all pictures and stuff like that. So I could really use a video editor, you know what I'm saying? I can really use a graphic design artist that will like make dope flyers. We need all kinds of things.
You're going live.
I'm going live off my phone, Rachel. Also Black Power. Steven Moon Sammy says, where can I find information that leads to support that the founder of NASA was a Nazi? I can show you where they said that. They like specifically saying, it don't say invite though. They specifically say the dude's name who was a Nazi. He invented, he was like working on the rocket or whatever. He worked on the rocket that got America to the moon. But he was also the person who invented the rockets that England was being bombed with.
Yeah, I am Googling.
Gigi is Googling. Draw it, blah. Popular mass. Nope. We can't do it, Ghazi. It's like... And you can't be in landscape? Like this? It keeps telling me rotate my phone.
It says tap the profile picture of the person you want to invite in the top right. Add to send an invitation.
Yeah, it's not working. All right. White people can get away with anything. It is so crazy. It is so crazy what they can get away with. Like, this dude was literally a Nazi war criminal, and he was taken to court twice on 2 different continents. Werner von Braun. Werner. I'm gonna Google that name, Bina. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Moon Sammy says, thank you. Can you also speak more on how German Nazi culture runs deep in American society now? Do you think groupthink is something that is shared in both the rise and the support of Nazism in Germany, as well as the overall support of Barack Obama and all other presidents? I think groupthink only works if you have like the same inherent values, which I already said that I think that Americans do. And I think that this documentary also makes it seem that like Nazis being smuggled into America is infecting Nazism. You know what I'm saying? It's infecting the American culture with Nazism. But my argument is that the American culture is already sufficiently colonial garbage, just like the Nazi culture is. In fact, America had its own rising Nazi population or support running parallel to the German so the rise of that German party. You know what I'm saying? Like, them motherfuckers over there do like the Sage Hail and do all that other fucking corny shit. People in America wear white hoods or a police badge. It's like a difference in culture, not so much value. You know what I'm saying? And because the inherent values are similar, you'll find that there are American Nazis. You get what I'm saying? Like the people who adopt that that aesthetic. You get what I'm saying, Moon? But yeah, I don't think it's like a group think thing. Like if a bunch of people was doing like wild shit, I don't even like, even if you colonize, if you someone from a colonized nation and you with a bunch of wild ass colonizers, don't you just sit there and be like, what the fuck are they doing? You know what I'm saying? It's not no group think about it, you know? I do believe in the propaganda machine, for sure. It's very effective. But the fact is that they both have colonizer tendencies. Yeah, I don't think people understand, like, Germany was all in Africa before they did the Holocaust on the Jewish people, and all the technology that they did was practiced on by in a place called Shark Island. All that technology was experimented on first on African people and killed thousands of African people before they used it on Jewish people. It's just that colonial mindset, bro. Two sides of the same coin. So we're trying to get another guest speaker. Excuse me. Excuse me for the technical difficulties. What up?
Click that plus sign.
Muhammadu liking it. Like, share.
Scroll up. Okay, click X. X. Look up in the top corner. Click that 12. Nothing happens when you click that 12?
Did you see the
Viewer.
There it is.
Okay.
What would y'all do without me?
stop? We did that all.
So
all
then we did that, and now what?
Nothing happened.
I'm sure you did, girls. I'm sure you did.
Look.
Yeah.
Look.
Now what?
What?
I don't believe you. Because I'm on the phone, y'all. Because I'm on the phone.
Oh, okay. Bye.
Jesus.
No, we literally was clicking it. Okay, I got some comments. Wait, Germany was attacking African people before they attacked the Jewish population. Moon Sammy, Google Shark Island right now and tell me I'm a liar. Venus says, oh man, Google. trying to get Ghazi in this mug. Oh man, Google Germany American Bund. Basically, American Nazis in the 1930s, scary as fuck. Literally, they had parallel motions. Like, America was not against Nazism. Like, like, the way Americans tell it, America was like, hold up, Nazis, we're gonna stop this evil. You know what I'm saying? But, like, the reality is that America was just sitting by letting all that shit happen and was waiting for an opportune moment to come into the war so it can become the global hegemon, the dominant force, like exactly how it played out. After Russia went ham, who actually defeated the Nazis, or I should say the USSR. The USSR actually defeated the Nazis. Like, all these other things were like tired off in war. Russia beat down the Nazis. Russia beat down Japan, and then America came in and imposed dominance on the world. And then it was like, oh yeah, we won World War II. Like, that's bullshit. It's bullshit. They came right at the end. If you look at the death count for any belligerent in that war, if you want to call them that, like, the highest death count was the USSR. It's in like the millions. The amount of death counts that England and America lost, it's like not even 1 million put together. And which is funny because in this documentary, like, there's like these accusations of the USSR being like evil Soviets, blah blah blah. Like, oh, you can't trust Soviet evidence. Or he went to Russia and was just like, I touched upon the cursed Russian soil. They literally say shit like that. Like, it's so goofy. And it's like Jewish people saying that. It's like, bro, Russians, like, or Russia was like pretty okay to Jews, bro. Charles Lindbergh was openly Nazis and considered to be an American hero.
Okay,
Exactly.
don't give me the view. Just show me the thing. All right, click the names again. Wait, hold on. Wait. Pan out. Let me see the whole thing. I see. Click that. Wait, hold on. All right, click the screen. Just one time. Just a little bit. Okay, now click the viewers.
Can y'all hear Ghazi?
Scroll up from that. Scroll up. Scroll up. From that. Scroll down. Click viewers. Touch Piper and hold on to Piper. See what happens. Let go. Alright, click it. Not me. I can't do it. Piper. Okay, now just click it. Just click it. Why does Robert stop talking? Okay, click X.
I wanted to talk to the or I wanted to see if anyone had any comments.
On the screen, click X. Scroll it down. Scroll it down.
My bad, y'all.
What the hell? Okay, look up.
Yeah, I didn't know Charles Lindbergh was a Nazi, but it doesn't surprise me. Like,
Click the screen again.
what's it like? Theodore Roosevelt like rounded up and like killed a bunch of indigenous people.
Hold on to it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the difference? What is the actual difference?
Not my name. Piper's.
That don't make any sense.
That's crazy. Okay, click back to the screen.
Did you see that white girl that got an interview all because she stopped being a Nazi? No, I did not see that, Piper.
Go all the way to the top of the comments. Maybe, because usually there's a thing that says if we wanted to... Nope. Okay, scroll back down. This is crazy. The feds really stop our shit.
Yeah, we
They literally
I watched
stop
the
our
video
shit.
and all of the videos that showed you how to do it.
So what else, y'all? Y'all got any more questions for me? Bottom line, I think this documentary shows that settler states are incapable of dealing justice. Their courts are in the business of giving justice. Their courts are in the business of maintaining their colonial plunder. Because if they were really about justice, they would condemn this Nazi fucking scum and condemn all their heroes, all their dumbass heroes that are murderers and killers and rapists. They would condemn them too. That's what justice is.
We have in the live here Chief Gatsukotsu on speakerphone.
And we got a call.
And we got a call from
Ring, 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 ring.
Gazi Kozo himself, y'all. Black Power, Gazi, what it is?
Black Power, y'all. Oh my goodness. This is such a good propaganda show. Shout out to Comrade Robert and GG. Everybody on this live, if y'all haven't seen it, y'all need to see this documentary, but what Chief Robert is saying is 100% true. You know, it's sad that you got to watch 4 hours of the bullshit to get to the meat. And like you said, Robert, the meat is only like 10 to 15 minutes long, and they really squeeze over it. Like, they really, for real, just like pick it up a little bit, but then get back to the bullshit. So basically, look, y'all got to do your research. So this whole documentary, like Robert said, has its own little agenda, right? Where it's basically like it's supposed to be criticizing at most, maybe, like the brother said, what is it, hive culture, or people like jumping to conclusions and things like that and all of the kind of stuff. But what it really should expose is what Comrade Robert is saying, which is how white nationalism is white nationalism no matter which country it comes from. And at the end of the day, they all got their boot on our necks. And as long as they unite with that, then you are white and you are treated as you are white. Now, what had happened was, let's roll back. Let's roll it back. Then we're going to get to Little White Man. And also, Paul, we don't get to, remind me to talk about that Ford lying-ass white man. We're going to talk about the Ford lying-ass white man because he's nothing but a liar. So what had happened was in World War II, you know, all the European nations or whatever came together, including Russia, and signed that little treaty or whatever of how they was about to come and unite and go against the Nazis, right? And they all united that if they caught Nazis and things like that, you would interview them Nazis and you would kill them Nazis. You would not deal with them, right? Period. You'd have them prisoner of war, or they would go to they would go to court or whatever like that, or you would go off them. You would go off them. America, the United States of America, including with the Catholic Church, okay, had their own program of going into Europe and literally not just like, oopsie daisies, we got Nazis in America. It was an active, actual program of recruiting these Nazis. Not just recruiting these Nazis, but then making them citizens within hours of them touching American soil. Now, pause. Let's think about this of how America is treating, you know, the Mexicans and the Hondurans at the borders trying to come in to the United States of America, and these children are being pushed into cages and living in their own filth. But meanwhile, these Nazis back in the day was getting first-class citizenship, first-class treatment coming into the United States of America. So that's what America did. And just like Comrade Robert said, Nazis were not stupid. Hitler was all about, I forget the phrase, but Nazis being number one in everything. So that's why BMW and Mercedes, those cars were not shit until Hitler came into the picture. Because if you had a German table builder, you had to be the best table builder. If not, your mama was going to get two to the dome. And they would lock the engineers and their scientists in. They wouldn't take a shower or nothing until they created the best of the best that the world has ever seen. And that's why Nazi military technology was so top notch, because Hitler was not fucking playing. So America saw that, oh my goodness, we want those scientists, we want those engineers, but also they wanted people from those torture camps as well. Now, why would America want Nazis from torture camps? America learned a lot from the Nazis at torture camps. Ask yourself, do your own research. The same concoction that they put in the veins of prisoners in American prisons, that concoction derives from Nazis from these torture camps. And they researched their training and adopted their training in how they handle quote-unquote terrorists. like all those torture devices and the things that they do to torture people and stuff like that, a lot of them derived from the Nazis. They learned a lot from the Nazis. And just like Comrade Robert said, like the man that invented the rockets that were hitting the UK, he became the father of NASA. And the same technology that bombed the hell out of those crooked United Kingdom folks was the same technology they put in their U.S. NASA rockets that got their asses to the moon. So the higher ranking you were in, now keep in mind, you gotta keep it linking up because we're going to get to the point. The higher ranking you were in Nazi military, in Nazi intelligence, the higher you were able to be within within the American government and within American also industries. Now we're about to get to the point. So they had all these Nazis in America. They want to make it seem like it's a handful that just popped in somehow, some way, or whatever. We're talking about tens of thousands of Nazis. Tens of thousands. Okay? Now, what had happened was Russia and America were going through the Cold War, which was the sharpest point of the communist versus capitalism, right, that we have ever known. And they were going through the Cold War. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union was leaking out information, not even leaking, they were putting it out. And they were putting it out because they wanted to break the unity of Israel and America. Because Israel and America were in the Middle East, where the Soviet Union was having proxy wars. So if they broke the stronghold that America has over Israel, it would give the Soviet Union the ability to spread communism through the Middle East. Okay? So because Israel is the white nationalist settler state in the Middle East, it is only there for military and economic purposes. Only there, okay? If you look, the Jews actually wanted to live in South America. If you look it up correctly, they wanted to live in South America by the beaches, and they sent their ass in the middle with the Arabs. That's what they did. Look it up. Don't blame me. So they wanted to destroy that unity. So that's when the Russians said, "Hey, you know America's harboring Nazis, but they love you so much, Israel." And they made that a big thing and was releasing that information, right? So to cover America's ass, they said, look, they putting out a lot of stuff with some real information, and Israel's looking at us like we're crazy. So America said, let's get in front of the story and make it seem like, oh, they're wrong, but they're not totally wrong. There's a few people that came in. And here are the few people. Now, America knew that these few people had to be big-time people to quell the bloodthirst that Israel was having. So that's why the two Nazis that they released information, because it wasn't just, Ivan the Terrible. There was another guy that they talked about, too, really briefly, right?
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
And they said these two, and we know where these two are. And the two that they picked up were common-day Nazis. They were Nazis that weren't even at the top of the food chain. Why? Because at the top of the food chain, you were more into the government. You probably had a fake name, fake family, fake history that they protected you. So the real Ivan the Terrible, if he was in America, was definitely up the food chain. You feel me? So they know that these two people were fakes, but America will be willing to cut the foot off to save the head. So they took just two random Nazis with low ranks that were just working 9 to 5, didn't have that much information or intel, and said these two Ivan the Terrible. And they created these fake documents and all this other kind of stuff. And you find that out because when they were asking Ivan, the person that thought Ivan the Terrible, he said, "You're trying to connect me to this, aren't you? You're trying to connect me to this."
Yeah, he
to
did.
This place, right? Because he knew what was going on. He didn't say you're trying to connect me to being a Nazi. He knew that the American government knew that he was a Nazi. He said, "You're trying to connect me to this. You're trying to throw me under the bus." Okay? So, here comes Israel. Thank you, America. You're so right. Our bad that we believe the fucking nasty commies.
The
We're
damn
gonna take
Soviets.
these guys and hold them accountable. and Israel went crazy. The Jews were going crazy. They were lying, saying that men looked just like them, even though Ivan the Terrible had greenish eyes, and this man had brown eyes. And they were just lying their asses off. They even killed one of the lawyers. They said he died by suicide. That's
Literally.
bullshit. They killed him by suicide, and they poured acid on one of the guy's faces, almost blind one of the lawyers, because they believed that this was Ivan the Terrible. Now listen how dumb subjectivity gets you. The problem was that Israel made the case that this man was Ivan the Terrible. Israel did not make the case that this man was a Nazi.
Yeah.
So, all along they believed America, and they tried this man and everything. Then they brought it to the Supreme Court, and they were like, you know what? He's gonna get hung. Da da da. But then the Berlin Wall fell, and when the Berlin Wall fell, those his lawyers went to Russia, got information. There was also that crazy white nationalism, because white people love Nazism is as American as American pie.
Literally.
And all these white Christians rose up in defense. A white woman, literally, a white mother, left her house every day to park her car across the street from the feds to steal their trash every day. That's how much this white woman, and she's not a Nazi. She's not a Nazi. She did this to protect a Nazi. You feel me? You remember
100.
that when she took them to the garage, they had all the bags of trash?
Yeah, and it was filled with like ripped up documents, like impossibly
Yes.
ripped up documents, and they put them all together.
Yes. Some volunteers and all kinds of shit. They were getting all this blood of money and everything. So they got caught up because at the end of the day, they couldn't prove that this man was Ivan the Terrible with all this information that released, and then they shot the real picture of Ivan the Terrible. So the Supreme Court had to let him go because the case was not about him being a Nazi. The case was about him being Ivan the Terrible, a Nazi, and they couldn't bring him back to court because that would have been double jeopardy. So now he gets released, and not until 2009 or something like that, America tried to send him to Berlin, where he dies a natural death, and he's 91 years old by that time. 91. You know what I mean? And this is the United States of America that forces our children to know about Anne Frank, forces our children to believe that Hitler was the worst man in the world, forces our children to believe that, America was the savior that defeated Nazism, that defeated Germany when it really was Russia, forces this down our children's back. But, America does not have any morals. America does not have any tie to anything except for profit, period. Profit. And at the end of the day, America went in Germany to get a resource, and they call those resources things like the brain resource, where they take the brightest of that nation. And America knew that those Nazis were going to run into the embrace of America because everybody else was shooting them dead. The Soviet Union, what did they do after they interviewed each of those Nazis? They shot them dead. So they ran into the embrace of America, and those neo-Nazis in America breeding, continuing the white nationalist ideology, which is just in place right alongside the white nationalist ideology of America. Hence why the capital of the neo-Nazis is in goddamn America and not in Germany.
Blue.
But anyways, so yes, Rob, it is a, like you said, it is a liberal propaganda piece, but it fucks itself up because you can't tell the story without spilling some of this stuff.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That woman had to say, this man came to her office and said, America is harboring Nazis, and she was like, and this is her division, this is her department. She run this, and some man came and told her this was in her files, and she said, no way. And walked her ass to the library of the files and showed her in the archives. And she was flabbergasted. And they would check, how are you feeling? How are you doing? What is your name? Da-da-da-da. Just checking. What is that kind of check? That is a kind of check to make sure that you're still a sleeping cell. That is a check to make sure that America knows who you are, letting you know that if anytime America wants you, you got to do what America says. And that's why, remember, the man was also caught up because they found America released the documents of him and immigrations writing that he was a Nazi. America forced them all to say, yes, we are Nazis, and then hid that. Why? Why? Any pimp knows why. You got to have your insurance in case they want to fuck up, in case they want to say no to a secret mission.
True.
In case they want to say no to being taken down. Oh, well, we got these files. You a Nazi. But this whole thing is a freaking mess, and a lot of the ways that they treat Africans, including especially how they treat Africans in the hood, and that military policing, the mass imprisonment, the torture devices in Guantanamo Bay, the way that they even deal with people and torture people, all that, a lot of that comes from the advancements that the Nazis did of how to destroy and control a human society. A lot of that comes from that. A lot of that comes from that.
100. And even vice versa. Like, I know Hitler, like, shouts out America in Mein Kampf. He's like, shout out to America for teaching me how to racially segregate and enact a whole genocide effectively. That's paraphrasing, but that's what he said.
No, he learned from them.
Exactly.
From them. And it's no different than America learned from the United Kingdom. And then the United Kingdom, though, will take the things that it learned from America and do it onto their people as well. You know what I mean? And another reason why they wanted those, America loved those freaking, what's it called? The people that were part of the death camps, the Nazis that were part of the death camps.
The SS?
Is because America also wanted to study them. Because they wanted to see what was your training like so that you could do all these horrific things to even children and not have and still be like a sane, calm human being. You know, like how can we take these quote-unquote everyday Americans and make them even more,
vicious,
white nationalists, soft hearts, and vicious and all other kind of shit. All of those kinds of, it was horrific. It's horrific. And they talking about, they wanted Nazis because they were anti-communist. They didn't want Nazis because they were anti-communist. They wanted Nazis because Nazis were white nationalists, and so was America.
Real talk. Yeah, it's nefarious propaganda that like doesn't get into that like real history. It just like surface level criticizes shit like at the most surface of the level, and then be like, yeah, we're being critical of America.
And people love it.
And people love it. This has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God, two things. Let's talk about the Ford guy, then remind me to talk about the grandson that ain't shit. The Ford, the guy that worked at Ford or whatever, was a lying son of a bitch. These people didn't come from no darkness. These people weren't quiet. These people went out and partied with them. They had sex with these people. They drank with these people. They partied with these people. And I am sure that these Nazis let them know of who they were and what they did. And they were okay with it. And they never said nothing because they were also white nationalists and they didn't like niggas and Jews either. So that whole thing is a lie. America did not win when the only people that America riled up during World War II and pushed into camps were Japanese people. They never did it to German people. Even though Germany was very well aware of what was going to go down in Pearl Harbor.
Piper, this documentary is called The Devil Next Door. But yeah,
so that man talking about they were in these people talking about them like they're Ninja Turtles. They were in the shadows, and they flew out of the sewers, and they went back into the sewers. No, these were your neighbors, these were your chums. You know how you know they were lying ass bastards? Because all those workers came out in defense of him and talked about he was a good guy, a family man, and he's always smiling and da-da-da-da and all sorts of kind of shit. So how you know all that shit if you don't talk to y'all and live in the motherfucking shadows?
100.
How you know all that?
100.
How you know all that? And then let me tell you some other bullshit that I gotta go. But his grandson defended him on that motherfucking Netflix.
He did.
Talking about how the interviewer said, but he was a Nazi. Your grandfather might have not been Ivan the Terrible, but he definitely was a Nazi, definitely was in death camps. in death camps, and he told that man, well, it was a different time. You can't blame him. It was a different time. Who knows what any one of us would have done?
Yeah.
His grandfather fucking volunteered to work in the death camps. His grandfather, as he hit 18, ran his ass to the nearest finding sign-up place and said, send me to the death camps. His grandfather got a tattoo, a voluntary tattoo, to show his pride of working in the death camps. They were not taken by gunpoint to work in the death camp.
Yeah. He said it was a matter of survival. I thought that was so dumb. Like, he's not the one trying to survive.
They defended him as he was a good grandfather, a nice person, all that kind of shit. And you know what disgusted me? Because I saw a documentary a month ago about all the Africans that are still in prison for crimes that the judicial system knows that they did not commit. And it was one of a man who is, I believe, in his 70s now. And at 12 years old, they put him in jail for strangling to death a pig. A 12-year-old boy strangled this 6-foot-something white man. And people are talking about how it was it's BS, and that it was 2 white cops that got into a fight because he slept with the other cop's wife, and that's what really happened. But they pinned it on this little black boy. And you know, the black grandson, had to say, when they asked him about what his father did, he apologized profusely for what his father did, like his grandfather really did it. Could you imagine them interviewing a black grandson of somebody that killed a cop, and they say, well, what do you think about your grandfather? You'd be like, well, different times, you can't judge him. I love his great grandfather. He would get harassed. Every blue line, police-loving white citizen would send him death threats, be at his house, and find a way to get him incarcerated and ruin that brother's life. This white man could be on one of the most popular Netflix and defend this motherfucking Nazi who killed and tortured people, and this white boy ain't received. I ain't seen not one tweet, post criticizing this white boy.
100%. That's crazy.
No, that's facts. They would flame him for drugs or for anything criticizing.
100%.
Facts.
Child, please. What's his name? Balagoon in Dallas. That Balagoon guy in Dallas got arrested for posts on Facebook defending the black guy that shot and killed 5 police officers.
He's in jail again? Or that was...
Yeah, they put him back in jail.
Damn, bro.
He was in jail, then he got released, then he got back in jail. But that's our existence versus their existence.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally 2 different worlds. 2 different worlds. And let me tell you something. We ain't gonna talk about them Israelis, child. They really showed their ass. They really showed their ass. At the end of the day, they care more about being white than what they care about. I mean, please. Could you if they held a Palestinian in court, do you think he would have gotten a please? No. Do you know how many Palestinians right now in Israel are rotting
100%.
for nothing? For throwing rocks at police, for cussing at police, for raising their voice at police, are rotting in jail, never even been in jail for years and years and years, they've never even seen a judge.
Bro, I saw this video of this Israeli pig harassing somebody, patting him down, and be like, all right, you free to go. And he gets down to the next block, and the Israeli police just lights him up from a distance.
Wow.
It's vicious.
Yep.
It's vicious.
It's vicious.
It's literally
vicious.
them.
As much as they believe this white man did the worst thing in the world to them, they still treated him like a white man.
100%.
They still gave him the justice of a white man, and they let him go.
That's what it
They let him go.
This would have been...
It would have never happened. They had a live camera on him to protect him. He didn't have one bruise, nothing. They let him receive letters from all over the world, love letters. Oh, come on now. Please. Please. That whole documentary is a total smack in the face to the injustice that is given to African and colonized people, innocent African and colonized people. I mean, we're all innocent, no matter what you've done. But innocent African and colonized people don't even receive that kind of level of justice and concern and all this other kind of stuff. And then America wants to hide its hand. America, the Nazis, the UK, they were all in cahoots with each other. They were all in cahoots with each other. They just had a disagreement about Africa. They didn't even fight Hitler because of the Jews. They didn't even know what was happening with the Jews. That's what they say. But they didn't even know what was happening with the Jews until they broke in and saw the death camps. But it was a fight that was going on in Africa. Germany was upset with what they got from World War I, because after World War I, they lost a lot of territory in Africa and gave Germany a little piece of Africa. But Germany wanted more. Germany wanted just as much as France had and as the UK had, and they would not allow that much. So they went to war for it. Just like Robert said, they were in Africa. They were in Africa testing all kinds of things and everything like that, but they had their soldiers there ready to make advancements, ready to take up territories in Africa. That whole World War II and World War I fight was all about how to take different pieces of Africa for who. That's what it all was about.
A war for colonial plunder.
Period.
It's gross. It's gross.
All right, Black Power, y'all.
Black Power, Ghazi, thank you for coming in and laying all that out.
No problem. This shit is crazy. And let me tell y'all, the biggest influx of German, I wouldn't say terrorists, well, terrorists,
yeah,
was after World War II. So when these white people go like, well, what kind of white you is? They be like, I'm French, and German say Nazi. Because I promise you, they were late. I promise you, they all came in flooding in, getting jobs. And do you know those jobs that they were getting? Like, I even looked it up at that Ford Foundation. I mean, that Ford, what's it called? Ford, what do they call, factory or whatever like that. Do you know how many niggas they fired so they could hire them motherfucking Nazis?
Goddamn.
Y'all don't hear me though.
Goddamn. I could just only imagine.
To make way for them. To make way for them.
For the fucking.
But anyways, y'all. Black Power. And let's keep this going. Great job at propaganda. Keep breaking it down for the people, because all this is some BS, and we got to get you a Disney, what's it called? Because Disney about to release some propaganda too. Oh, we got to, oh Lord.
You talking about Star Wars?
No, the Disney Pass.
Oh yeah.
The Disney subscription.
Disney Plus, yeah, but people talking about how it's hard to watch Disney because all the old stuff is so racist.
Oh, that would be so lit! Oh my god. I'm down.
We just bought the tickets for Queen and Slim, so.
Oh, Queen and Slim propaganda coming out.
Yeah, that's gonna be
just
good.
say that right now. The 10th? What is it?
No, the propaganda is gonna be on the 30th.
Oh, the 30th. Propaganda?
Yeah, I'm gonna see it too.
We gon' get it.
Yeah, we all gotta see that.
100.
It's gonna be. We'll see. I'm not putting my hopes up. Black Power.
All right, Ghazi, Black Power. Y'all done heard it from the chief himself. He done laid out all this extra stuff I didn't even know about, but we still united on the same idea that all of this is just foundational honky nonsense. It's just a difference between like small attitudes, you know what I'm saying? But foundationally, it makes no difference to colonize people whatsoever. What fascism is to white people is just white people getting treated how we get treated under whatever colonial regime. And that's just it. I want to get into some comments that I have made. Miss Piper says the whites that are watching this are shook. 100. I know motherfuckers gonna be like, y'all some anti-Semites, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to say your name because I'm afraid I'm gonna mess it up. But this sister says, what I'm observing is that at its most basic, colonialism creates and repeats the us versus them narrative. Once people believe that it seems to become very easy to do inhumane things to people. I haven't watched the documentary because most docs annoy me with just looking at the surface and not looking deep like you have shown. I might just watch the last ep. It's some drama in there. I enjoyed it. but I also knew that it was some old bullshit. I straight up pooped with no one watching. Oh yeah, I'm gonna still finish up Watchmen because I actually love that show, and there's a lot of propaganda in there too. So I'm gonna break it down. But if there's no other comments, y'all, I'm gonna wrap this up. Tomorrow Watchmen comes out. I'll probably have a propaganda next Saturday, and yeah, I'm gonna be more on point with going live. So Black power to everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and y'all.
Invite them to Tuesday meeting.
Oh yeah, on our Tuesday meetings, we're doing them live anyway. So catch me, Chief Ghazi, Chief Dia, Chief Naya, and look at all the awesome work that we do. They're meetings, but they're also really fun to have these discussions and to really get into the nitty gritty of organization. And I invite all colonized people to come. It's a great time, and it's also very informative. So on that note, Black power to y'all. And yeah, stay woke, stay peeping this white nationalist propaganda. Let me see.